we do want to move into a couple of new topics, but I just want to quickly recap on what we've covered already up to this. And we introduced the lean canvas. So for those of you who are new to us, you may or may not have seen the lean canvas or perhaps a business model canvas, which is quite similar, slightly different layout, slightly different focus. But we've looked at the lean canvas and we've spent a little bit of time over the last couple of weeks just starting to think about how we actually describe our problem. And obviously you're all now really moving forward with that, which is great, but also who our customers are and who those early adopters might be. So the likely ones that would engage with us early, whilst we may not have the perfect solution and might still be developing what that looks like. And also making sure that we're starting to think about how we can actually communicate it as a value to the client rather than just a product or a service, but how it will actually provide value to them. So we want to make sure that we can do that because we don't want to build something that nobody needs. We want to make sure there is a problem that needs to be solved, and having good quality conversations with our customers or potential customers around the problem and how they see that, so that we can actually come up with a solution that's going to fit for them, that they're going to be wanting to purchase, so they have a willingness to do that. And also we want to make sure we're dealing with people who have a capacity to purchase as well, because they could want it all they like, but if they don't have the money to buy it, it's not going to help you run a sustainable business. We want to make sure as well that you're finding that niche within the market that really does understand where you're at and what you're doing. So it's more about getting people who want what you have and what you're developing, as opposed to forcing people to understand it. So finding that niche and making sure that your messaging is targeted to them as well. But of course, making sure there's a big enough market there to make what you're doing viable. So we're going to move forward a little bit further with that today, but that's some of what we've talked about so far, and particularly focusing as well on identifying when we're talking to someone who they are in the conversation. So are they someone who's going to use our product, someone who's going to make a decision about purchasing the product, or someone who's actually going to make the decision to pay for it, or someone who's going to influence any and all of those people. So we have to understand those. And the one that's not on that screen that we haven't really focused on yet is also the saboteur, the one that's going to get in the way and make life difficult. And that is something to consider as well, but we'll be aware of them at the moment, but we want to make sure we know who the others are too. Thinking about the ideal customer is actually something that's really important. Again, we only have so much time, energy and money. It only goes so far, so we don't want to waste our time spending it on, or spending time, energy or money focusing on people who are not our ideal customer, particularly at this stage. Your risk of burnout is high, and if you spend a lot of time talking to the wrong people, it's not going to get you where you need to go and help you learn what you need to learn. So making sure that you're thinking about your time and who you're talking to, and only spending enough time with them as relevant. So one of the values of MIRA is the fact that you get some quick time with some great industry mentors, and they can introduce you to people who are most likely to be helpful for you, and help eliminate some of the conversations you may have that aren't going to get you anywhere. So we want to work on that. And we also last week looked at the value proposition canvas. So this is, again, making sure that we're drilling down into who our customer is, what job they're doing, and what are the issues they're having with that. So the pain points that those people are experiencing and the gains that they're looking to achieve from doing that job well. And can we actually identify them for that particular individual? And again, thinking about those layers of our customer in the decision maker, the economic buyer, and also in the end user. So then when we're starting to actually develop our solution further and address it as a value proposition, we can make sure that we're identifying what parts of our solution are actually addressing those key pain points that our customer has. And similarly, what parts of our solution are going to help them achieve those gains that they're looking to achieve. So making sure our messaging is on point as clearly as we can, but obviously that takes a lot of conversation to understand what those pain points truly are, as opposed to what people might highlight that they are. So we want to make sure that we understand all of those things and be able to articulate that as well as we can. So certainly developing our elevator pitch and making sure that's clear and concise is really important. And as we move forward with this program, developing a longer pitch, so 5 minutes is the time that you'll have at the end to demonstrate your business model, your product, what you need at our demo day at the end. So getting all of those things to start to come together is really important. So the more that you can refine that, the practice of doing it as well as the message is really important. So we also talked last week about minimum viable product and the fact that if we're building something, it can't have every feature from the beginning. It's usually just not affordable, plus we don't know what people really, really need. So building something that we can start to test with that smallest feature set that's still going to provide value to our customer and allow us to learn from them actually using it or engaging with it, what's working and what's not, what's valuable and what's not, and starting to see what they'll pay for and what they won't. So all of that means that we have to make sure that when we're building anything, it's not only functional, but it's also usable and convenient and an enjoyable experience for the user or convenient for the person who's doing it. So it's got to have that nice little slice of the pie as opposed to just being functional and nothing else. So that was a very fast recap of what we've covered in the last couple of weeks. So today I'm going to just introduce the topic of business models. Now you may all be familiar with this and I'm really keen to open this up, and I'd love it to be more of a discussion, but time isn't on our side. So we do want to move through this, but if you've got any questions or something you want to add, then please just speak. Just take yourself off mute and speak, or drop it into the chat. David will be keeping an eye on that because for me it's just a little bit out of my line of sight, so he'll keep an eye on that one for us and pose any questions. But this is really just to introduce the topic before our mentors arrive so that we can then continue that with a bit of Q&A with them, and certainly welcoming your questions through that. So I'll just identify, I guess, when we're thinking about business model, it is that high level plan of operating a profitable business. It's how is this business going to function? What does it do? What is it? So we want to make sure that we can know that and work towards that. And it's not going to be something that we can do on day one. It's going to take some time. But when we're thinking about the different types of business models, we also have to think of what have we proven to be true, because we may see different business models out there, but that may not work for our sector. It may not work for the type of product that we provide, the type of service that we provide. So we have to work on what's been validated, and it has to be able to be profitable. It has to generate revenue and obviously has to consider the costs that are associated. So when we're looking at our lean canvas, it's those two bottom sections that we're thinking about. And again, we may not know all of this, or we won't know all of this right at the beginning. And certainly while you're piloting your product or prototyping, you have to learn all of this. You may not be able to generate the revenue that you're expecting to generate, but you need to think of what that could be in the future and start to plan for that and have conversations around that. And similarly, learning what the costs will be. And we know that costs at the beginning are often quite quite high in comparison to what they'll be when we can start to deliver at scale, but getting an understanding of what that looks like and where those differences can come in is also really important. Building one of something could cost us, 10, but building 100 might only cost us 20. So we, have to think about those things as we progress along as well. So different types of business models. So some of these you might be familiar with, and there's a lot of hybrids now, so a lot that cross over. So we may have a product that is sold through direct sales. So our business model is selling as a direct sale. We might be looking to franchise what we're doing. We might be relying on advertising to actually generate our revenue to be viable in providing the product or service that we provide, but that's not necessarily where our income is generated. We may be providing a service as opposed to a product, or a combination of the two. We may be actually providing something that just really collects data, and the data is actually our business, where our business model is based, and that's the valuable asset for our business. We may be reliant on affiliates, so we might not actually be selling to our customers ourselves at all, but we have other people who are doing that for us. We may have bricks and mortar stores, places where people can come and interact with us and engage in our experience or purchase our product. We may be reliant on distributors, so we might have to get other people out there to take our product or service out to the customer in a physical way as well. Or we might be purely online. And that can come in a variety of different platforms now, and obviously the last month has taught us just how much can be done online. You may be looking at a subscription model where you're getting someone to sign up for a subscription to, again, either a product or service delivery. You may be looking at a membership base, and the freemium model is obviously something that comes into play with different business models of attracting people to engage with your service, for free, but then the option to upsell them into a paid or premium version as well. So they're just some of the things that we think about when we think about business models. And again, a lot of businesses now are very much looking to diversify, and that means creating these hybrids of what that can look like, and how you can incorporate different opportunities or different experiences into your customer's journey with you, and have different price points sometimes as well within that. So when we're looking at income diversification, that's another part, and it obviously aligns with a lot of those different business model types. But having multiple income streams and diverse income streams into your business obviously helps prevent the risk of a certain significant decline based on an activity. And obviously COVID is a prime example of that. If you are only able to deliver your product or service in a physical environment, directly engaged with your customer, you're closed at the moment. That's it. There's no other option. So looking at different ways of doing that is really important. But then also how your customer pays, what they're paying for, and what service you're providing can often be expanded to help diversify without you having to actually start to really do something different. Although sometimes doing something different is actually required to complement what you do, or to reach into a new part of the market that you want to enter, that you're just not ready to fully play in yet, but you want to start to move into. And obviously for those of you who perhaps have been working in one sector and are looking at moving into the mining sector, that can be a way for you to look at that as well. How can you just start to enter in with a slightly different business model that's going to allow you to get some traction and become known in that sector? So selling a single product as a transaction, very simple. We're all used to doing that. We go and buy something when we need it, and that's straightforward in most cases. We're familiar with doing that as a consumer. How you might do that with your client going forward obviously varies depending on how complex your product is. Is it a simple process, or is it actually still quite a complex process to purchase a single product from you? Obviously, the more complex it is, the more that probably costs you. So either the higher the price point or the lower the number of clients you can service through that transaction. Providing a service is usually based on your time, so trading time for money, and that's something that many businesses have tried to move away from. How can you scale if you can't scale your time? So you have to bring on more people. That might be okay, but looking for alternate ways to be able to deliver the value that you provide without necessarily just trading time for money is also something that we're conscious about, and always looking for ways to be able to do that in a more effective and efficient way. A lot of businesses are based on project now, so they're not looking so much at the time it takes when they're looking at pricing their product. They're looking at the project and the deliverables. So, we'll deliver X for, Z cost. How long it takes, how many people we engage, whether we do that ourselves or we outsource it, whether we bring in a partner and collaborate, is not irrelevant by any means, but it's not relevant necessarily to your end customer. They're engaging you to deliver on something, and how you do that then is really up to you. How long it takes you to actually do is also up to you. And for many organizations, they find that pricing in that way helps them to be able to overrun different projects at the same time, utilizing similar resources for multiple clients. So there can be a lot of value add there, where you're doing a job once, but you're able to sell it to a variety of different clients through that project. And then obviously recurring income, and we're seeing this more and more in, subscribe to something, license something rather than purchase it outright. Much of our software now is on a monthly subscription rather than having to purchase the software and then perhaps buy it again when it needs an upgrade. So providing, the service that goes along with that as a provider is obviously something that you need to factor into your business model. What sort of, after sales service and support upgrades are included within that subscription package or that membership package or whatever it may be that works for your audience. Similarly, when you're looking at advertising, brokerage, having affiliates, those types of things often come in where, you've got this continuous, you've sold it once, but you're continuing to pay for the lifetime that particular customer is engaged with that product or service. So there's a lot of different options that are coming about there. And again, the hybrid versions are important to consider, of how you can blend those together to make sure that you're making your business as profitable and sustainable as possible. So I just wanted to give a little example, and this is probably something that you're relatively familiar with, but sometimes it's good just to see it in a really plain sight. Most of us have one of these of some variety sitting on our desk. It's a printer. We can go and buy one. They're very cheap in general to be able to purchase, and they do a job that we need done. Obviously less so in today's day and age than in the past, with a lot of us moving towards a paperless environment, but it's still something that we all have. Now, of course, when Epson, in this case, make a printer, their business model isn't just to sell printers. They wouldn't be in business if they just sold printers. So they think about how else they can generate revenue. So they also rarely sell us the printer themselves. They have distributor networks, so we can go to Harvey Norman and buy a printer. We could go to Downs Office Equipment and Supplies and buy a printer, two resellers, but they offer different services themselves. Their own business models are different. So if you go to Harvey Norman, you're going to get your printer, but they're probably going to sell you an extended warranty. Of course, they make income through that as well. But then Epson come back into play as well. So they'll sell the paper. This paper works best with this printer. You may or may not choose to buy it. These ink cartridges, though, are the only ones that work with our printer. You have to buy them, and you have to buy them repeatedly. They don't last very long. And even if you don't use it, they're going to dry up, and eventually you're going to have to buy them again. So Epson are able to continue to generate revenue from that initial, relatively cheap sale by providing an ongoing product that the customer is going to have to purchase again and again and again. Similarly, if we go through Downs Office Equipment, we purchase that same printer. We might purchase the printer, but we might also purchase a package for ongoing servicing and supply of product. So again, we might have someone who comes out and services that printer, maybe based on the number of times we use it, or on a duration basis, or just when it breaks. But similarly, we still need ink and we still need paper, and they can provide that through a subscription service, or by us just going back and purchasing those products again. So when we're looking at that, Epson are making money not only through the printer, but also through the sale of those additional products that are needed on a repeated basis, and potentially through a distributor or affiliate relationship with those suppliers as well, depending on what arrangement was made at the beginning. So it's important to think for your own self, what are you providing? What extra things will your client need? Or who's going to sell it for you, and what can they do as well? So yeah, lots of options there. The other thing that's important to think about when you're looking at your business and your business model is, what are you ultimately wanting to sell at the end of the day? The product or service may be the thing that you're selling and providing as a solution to a problem, but at the end of the day, you probably want to be able to sell your business. So it's really important to think about that as part of your business model as well, in what does that actually look like and how are you building value in your business day to day. You're creating your product, you've got some IP there, new technologies or new designs perhaps. You're building a brand, so are you actually building loyalty and trust and commitment with the people that you're engaging with? You're building your market, so accessing your clients and collecting data is also really important. Your product, obviously, and the more different it is to other solutions that are out there, the more valuable it becomes. And particularly if it's not easy to be replicated or duplicated by somebody else. Your systems that you're putting in place are also particularly important and often come in as part of your business model if you're going into an online or affiliate or distributor model. How are those systems all talking to each other and making your business more valuable? Similarly, your culture. Are you actually attracting and retaining really good people in your organization? How are you doing that? And how does that impact? So this could be your sales staff, they could be your service staff, they could be your tech team. Who have you got in your team that makes your business valuable? And also funding. And we're going to go into funding a bit more next week. But are you actually able to raise funds on good terms? Can you get investment if you need it? Can you borrow money from the bank if you need it? What are those terms looking like? Can you just get a 30-day account from your supplier or a 90-day account from your supplier of your, raw materials if you're manufacturing, for example? So all of those things come into the value of your business. And at the end of the day, that is the other thing that you're probably going to want to sell, because at some point you're going to want to retire, or you're going to want to move on to solve another problem, or you're going to just have had enough of this and want to do something different. So be thinking about these things right from the beginning, as well as you build out your business model and how these all work together and talk to each other. So the other thing I just wanted to touch on now, and we've got some of our mentors dropping in, so I'll get an introduction to you all in about 10 more minutes time. But we just want to touch on pipeline development. And I know we're talking about a lot of oil and gas. Different pipeline. Okay, different pipeline. This is pipeline for our customers. So when we're looking at our lean canvas, we're thinking about channels as well as key metrics here and how these work for us, how we can find people and connect with our audience, and how many of them do we need to be connecting with, and how does that flow happen? How long does it take for someone that we meet to become our paying customer, and what does that look like and what influences that, and what can we do to improve it? How proactive you are versus how reactive you are can often be an influence there. And it's really important, and I'm sure the fact that you're all here with us today means that you're probably on the more proactive side than the reactive side. But think about with your team as well. Anyone that you engage with, are they actually proactive? Are they really understanding what you're trying to do in your business and the business model that you're creating? And are they looking for ways to improve that? And you can only think so far. Having a good team around you that are also thinking for you and bringing those ideas to the table is really important. And if you don't have a team to work with, then mentors in this program and the other people that are doing this can sometimes be those new ideas for you as well. So be sure to be thinking about that, both for yourself and for others, but be proactive. Pirate metrics. Some of you may be familiar with the pirate metrics. So I think this first come from 500 startups, but they may have got it from somewhere else as well. But when you're looking at your pipeline development, are you being really conscious about the acquisition? So how are customers getting to you, or how are you getting to your customers? How are you acquiring them? And leads, if not customers. You may not have customers yet, but those leads, those opportunities, the people that you want to talk to. And then how are you activating them? So from that very first experience that they have with you, to get them to intend to come back, what is happening? How are you actually getting them to activate and do something to engage? So they fit into that get category. Then retention. So once you've got them, what are you doing that's going to actually help encourage them to come back multiple times, to buy from you multiple times? we want them to be doing that because it costs us a lot to get them in the first instance. We don't want to lose them once we've got them. We want to be able to do that. And that may roll back to your business model is, are you actually providing something that they need to buy repeatedly? Because if you're not, and you're just a one purchase and then that's the end, your business model sustainability could be challenged because your customer acquisition cost versus the lifetime value of your customer may not be sustainable. So looking at that retention piece, making sure there is something for them to engage with, and what does that look like, and do they want to? So how are you keeping them? And then growing. So we spend a lot of time getting these customers, making them happy, keeping them. We need to be able to grow, and they can be great advocates for us. So the customers that know us, that love our product or service, will refer other people. They'll talk to their friends, their family, their colleagues, whatever it might be, and refer. Are we encouraging that process? To build our pipeline, we want to make sure that we're making it easy for people to introduce us to other people, either directly as a person or to our platform, to our social media, to our, whatever it is, to our staff. We want that to be easy, but we also need to consciously encourage that behavior. And then revenue. We can often get customers and they can keep coming back and buying from us. If we're not charging them any money, they'll probably do that. We need them to be paying. Okay, we don't live on good wishes. We live on real food with roofs over our head, and that all costs money. We have to pay our teams, that costs money. We have to build our tech, that costs money. So we need our customers to be paying for our product. And that will help us grow our business. So again, are you making that process simple? Is your price point working for your customer? And is it actually enough for you to grow your business? So looking at all of that in our pipeline also comes down to often how many are flowing through. Where are they coming from, and how many do we need to be able to make that business sustainable? So in your pipeline management, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to actually have a pipeline, have a document. It could be a spreadsheet, it could be a CRM, whatever it may be for you, that's actually capturing the details and the data of these people. It could be a notebook. I wouldn't encourage that. Something digital is usually better because it allows you to filter and work out who am I needing to talk to at the moment. But capturing that awareness stage, the ones you're aware of and that are aware of you, the ones who are actually interested. And again, we talked earlier about our ideal customer. So, focusing on the ones that are interested. If they're not interested, maybe in the early stages, it's not worth pursuing them. Later, perhaps, but not yet. Obviously, helping them with the decision making, making sure you're giving them all the information they need, encouraging them to, ask their questions and overcome any objections they have, and then obviously taking action. Are you making that process as simple as possible for them to engage with you? And again, tracking that through, charging them money, and encouraging them to refer. So 4 little things that sort of work alongside of that in terms of developing that pipeline is, a gift. Can you give them something? It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It can be information. It can be data. It can be, content of some variety. It could be, whatever they're needing that's not necessarily going to cost you a lot, but will add value and start to help your audience get to know you and understand that you know what you're talking about. Have some trust that you are going to be able to deliver on what you say. So can you provide that? And nowadays with internet and websites and blogs and podcasts and videos and all those different things, having the opportunity to put content out there has never been easier than now. But certainly making sure it's targeted to your audience, that they're going to find it and engage with it, is really important. Having some way for them to sample what you're doing, sample your service, sample your product. It may be paid or unpaid. It depends on what you're looking to exchange. But this is an exchange. A gift is one way. A sample is an exchange. You want to receive something from them. It could be feedback. Maybe you're getting them to beta test something for you, or you're running a pilot. The cost may be minimal or none, but what you want from them is data, it's information, it's, it could be introductions. There could be a whole host of things that you're willing to exchange or wanting to exchange, that your audience is wanting to exchange as well. And then we move into the core product. So actually selling what it is that you do. And with that, you want to be able to make sure at this point that you're totally financially viable, that when you make that sale, it's covering your costs, your gift, your cost of your sample, your cost of all the R&D that you've done. Everything that's included is going to be covered by selling enough of your core product to your end customer. And then the next steps, and again, going back to our business model, we need to think about what else our customer may be needing at that point. And it doesn't mean that you have to make it. It doesn't mean that you have to deliver it. You may have a relationship with somebody who does. So just like Epson don't go service your desktop printer for you, somebody else does, and they have a relationship there. So you may have relationships with other providers of different services, different products that work alongside your core products. And, you know, eventually maybe you will provide them yourself if that, again, is a good business model for you. But often you can generate revenue from an on-sell or an introduction of something that works. And, you know, if you're thinking about what that could look like, talking to your customer, you know, when they buy this product, what else do they need? What are they looking for? What support do they need? Do they need training? Do they need, you know, something that goes with it to make that a better experience for them? Or because they've used your product, they've now achieved that gain they were looking for or solved that pain, and it leads them on to the next step in the job that they have to do. What does that look like? And again, how can you introduce them to someone who can help or provide that access to that product or service that will help them on that next step in their journey? So all of that helps build out a sustainable and viable business when you start to layer all those things together. But it does take time, so we don't expect that it's all going to happen from day one, but thinking about it from day one can be really important.